Today I'm joined by Denis, former assistant coach and also Olympian. Eddie, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Grant. Thanks for having me.
Let's go right back to your Olympic debut in Sydney 2000. Can you tell us a little bit about the experience of representing your country at the Olympic Games?
It's a long time ago, and I've done a lot of water polo since. It's such a big thing based on, on average, probably somewhere between 6 to 10 years of work, serious work to try to get to that position and to get that opportunity and the luck that goes along with that. We all know there's great players along the way that just don't get the opportunity. So actually being able to get there and to, be selected as good enough, as well as to have the luck of, just having the chance to do it is an amazing thing. And so it's always an emotional thing. I've seen it in lots of athletes, and even as a coach, it's an emotional thing to be there. It's an exciting thing based on that realization on the ground that you're surrounded by the best athletes and coaches in the world at one time. It's amazing, exciting, exhilarating, fun, and it all goes in a whirlwind. Like the 2 weeks comes and goes, and you step back on the bus or the plane or whatever, and you're scrambling to try to remember what actually happened. It just goes so fast, but it's an amazing thing to aspire to, definitely.
And you mentioned about the years of work that goes into it. The 2000 team were coming off the back of, in 96, disappointment in relation to the Olympic Games. How much pressure did you feel coming into a home Olympic Games?
Now, when I think back, I can't remember pressure. I can just remember excitement. But maybe if I delve a little bit further, I think there was expectation. 96, I was part of that group that didn't qualify, a very experienced group that didn't get there through a qualification series in Europe, which was not normal. And then leading into Sydney, we had a really strong result in 98 at the World Champs in Perth, coming fourth, competing really well against, some really, really strong teams along the way. Obviously being at home and being in January of that year made a difference, but that really worked for us. So we had some confidence. 99 wasn't a great year for us, but there was it was so positive in terms of the amount of money that came into our sport. And I think within all of Olympic sport leading into Sydney, there was a lot more going around, which helped actually give us as the men's team, I think the DAS payments first came in. So we had a bit of money that was associated with us. It wasn't all kind of voluntary like it was before that point in time. So that was a difference. There was just so much buzz about it. At this point, I can really only remember excitement, but I think, there was, everyone was expecting that we wanted to have a good showing in Sydney. So there was definitely that desire to do that for us and for the public.
And tell us about some of the things that went on in and around Sydney, in the village. What were some of the most memorable moments of meeting some of the other athletes?
There's probably only a few for us. It's kind of interesting because back then, I think it was the last Olympics where water polo was played in 1 week. So you played every day, and the water polo men were always second week. So the swimming and I think diving happened the first week, and then the second week would be all water polo. And before Sydney, it was always men. So then it was the women came in, so they actually competed in the first week. So we went and watched. I remember going and watching them play the game against Russia, which I think was semi-final, which was a really tight, exciting game. And then we didn't start until the night that Kathy Freeman won her gold medal. So I remember sitting. Our game start against Russia was delayed because everyone in Australia was watching Kathy Freeman run. And so we actually watched that on the screen in the change room before we walked out for our first game. So I remember that. And so us being in the second week and being every day of the second week, really meant that we didn't, like the first week was training. We were training at least once a day, if not twice a day, every day in that first week. And we didn't really get to go see other events so much. Being in the village was good. I remember Luke Longley was walking around through the Australian section, just walking through into people's rooms, and he walked into our water polo kind of house, and there was probably about 4 or 5 rooms in there, so maybe eight or 9 of us, and he just came and, how you going, guys, and sat down on the couch and had a bit of a chat, and then walked off and went to see someone else, and he was just wandering around, which was kind of cool. You know, and you see people, it's kind of funny. I remember there was a international tennis player who I was walking out of the dining hall at one point and saw her, and I kind of stopped, like, I know her, like, actually personally, and then I went, oh no, I don't. I actually just know her from the television. It was just a really surreal kind of experience in that, because you're all in the same space together, you kind of feel like you should know people on a personal level. So yeah, but for us, it was kind of all just business. It really felt like, you know, we were there to try to perform. We knew we had to perform really well, because obviously Olympics is only that top, whatever it was, 12 for us, I suppose. And so that first week was still working hard, and then the second week was competition.
And there's very few generations that get to participate in a team sport in a home World Championships, as you mentioned you did in Perth in '98, and then a home Olympic Games in Sydney. What was it like for you being able to represent your country in both World Championships and Olympic Games on home soil?
It really is an amazing thing, especially for our sport, because our sport really lives overseas, and in both the men's and women's game, and all the professional leagues are overseas, and so, you know, the main supporter base lives there. The main kind of the highest level club competitions are overseas. It's something that, you know, we were used to from every water polo generation from day one, is to go somewhere else and play those big competitions in front of people who you don't know. So the World Champs in Perth, what I really remember in terms of that was staying in Fremantle. Kind of that was cool in terms of you could go out and go for a coffee or whatever, get some food, and there was people around who kind of knew your tracksuit and were happy to kind of have a bit of a chat. And then, you know, standing at the start of each Australian game, singing the national anthem, and actually having the whole crowd sing it back to you, like, that was outstanding. And then at the Olympics, you know, seeing my parents in the crowd, that never happened. You know, seeing people, almost the whole crowd was water polo people who I knew from, you know, interstate, local competitions from all around Australia, but almost the whole crowd for our games was Australian crowd. And it's an amazing thing. It's just something we never experienced before. So it was a cool thing. And the bars around, obviously, and the amount of Australians, simple as that. Like, you just don't go anywhere for big events like that where you got so many of your local crowd who are just there to support you. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And I think probably what a lot of people don't realise is that aren't from the sport, the dominant forces of Europe and the old Eastern Europe, certainly very different, I bet, from standing in a world qualifying tournament for the Olympic Games in Europe prior to '96 to being in both Perth in '98 and Sydney 2000.
Yeah, look, the qualifying tournament for '96 was in Germany in the middle of their winter, and it was -18 outside during the day. That was a crazy experience and really difficult, and not something that we had to repeat, because then they changed the qualification zones, and so we became part of Oceania. And then since then, the men's and women's teams only had to qualify against Oceania teams, which, you know, suits us. But that year was, you know, they decided that they wanted to give other lesser European teams a chance, and so we had to go and qualify there. And in essence, we just didn't get it done, and it was disappointing. But I think it led to a number of changes within our sport that probably helped us progress through to 2000 and beyond. So, you know, that's kind of what happens with change and those sort of situations.
And still reflecting on the athlete side of things, with the delay in the Tokyo Olympics, how would have you felt if you were still, as a player, having to deal with the delay of 12 months for the Olympic Games, with Tokyo being delayed until next year?
I think it would depend on if it was my first games or maybe a second or third. But either way, I mean, a really difficult situation that in the end you would have to just step back and go, hey, this is more about people's health. This is about much larger things than just my journey. I think athletes, and I know that through my current position working at SASI, but you know, it's required a lot of support for coaches and athletes through this, because it's people's dreams. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of questioning, you know. And I always say to the athletes that I kind of have dealt with at the higher sort of national level that, you know, and even ones who are aspiring to that level, that at the highest level, it's not one decision that leads you down the track. It's actually a whole multitude of decisions that you have to make really often. So at least once a year, you have to decide, am I going to go another year? Am I going to do this again? I think this is just another one of those moments, and it's maybe just a bigger moment because it's sort of affected everyone all at once. But you go through these moments as a high level athlete all the time. And so I think it's just one of those where you have to sit back and go, am I willing to go again and push myself and try again and put myself out there for maybe making it or not, or don't I? And they're both valid points of view. And at some point you decide not to anymore. But I think that sort of sets up a level of resilience in top level athletes that is a pretty strong thing that they can draw on in situations like this. But still, nonetheless, it's just a really difficult one because it's completely unexpected, has affected everyone all at once, and potentially is a little bit harder to deal with because of that.
Can you tell us what the experience was like of being the assistant coach of the Aussie Stingers and some of the most memorable moments for you?
Look, I'm really grateful for the experience. You know, it's maybe more difficult to be a coach of one of the top teams in the world, which the Stingers were and still are. You know, I'm grateful for being selected in my position by the head coach and having those opportunities. And I think every tournament offered something that was memorable. And offered something to me in terms of helping me be a better coach, helping me to connect to athletes more. You know, results are memorable. I was part of the World Cup winning squad as an assistant coach. And then I was at World Champs in Melbourne as an assistant coach when the girls won a silver, which was kind of devastating, but a really tough semi-final and final, again in front of a home crowd, which was, you know, really cool. And when I joined the team for the Rio campaign, so 2013, one of our first things was World Cup qualifications.
One last question. What are the greatest things that water polo has given you? Long career in water polo throughout as a player and as a coach. What has it given you?
It's given me a career. It's given me an avenue for my love of sport, my love of team sport in particular. It's given me great opportunity to be able to coach. I didn't even realise I would, coach. I love coaching so much because of the opportunities and the people that I've had the opportunity to work with. I'm still working in sports, so it's obviously something that I love to do. I love to work with people, with athletes, to help them actually progress, to learn about themselves, to push themselves to do something that is amazing in their lives, potentially something that is at a higher level that they that they're ever going to do in any other part of their life. Like, I think sport offers so much, and water polo's given me the ability and the avenue to kind of do that and to continue to do that. So again, I'm really grateful for that, because that's a real passion of mine. And again, that the learning the sport as an athlete, and as we spoke about before, you know, being able to then give my experiences at the highest level at those big tournaments to the athletes that I coach, allows me to kind of be a good coach. So that's kind of what I enjoy doing. I like seeing how I can help others kind of step into that space and have the type of experiences that I've had.
Denis, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Grant.